What's up? So you're gonna have to forgive me. I am very new to this whole interface and everything. I'm still figuring it all out, but it's a pleasure to be here. How's everyone doing? If you wanna drop some details about yourself in the chat, like where you're from, what brought you to the channel, what kind of stuff you're interested in, feel free to let me know. And also let me know if there's any issues technically, like video or mic. Um, Hope everyone's having a good Wednesday. I got my tea with me. Mm. This feels like the first couple of minutes of any party. You're not really sure. Is anyone gonna come? We shall see. We shall see. I'm checking to see if there were any questions. Oh, hello. Let's see. Selena Tsai sounds like. Saw the first Trump words video. Hope for more like that. Right on. Cool. I'm glad. That was definitely the most popular one so far. Um, Yeah, I'd love to know what else you would yeah, what it means to you for there to be more like that, because it's interesting. I'm thinking about, did people like it because it's a public figure, a politician, or did they like the kind of method I was taking to it? There's so many different like components to the video that I'm trying to figure out how to like deconstruct and then reverse engineer other things like that while not being in exactly the same mold. Uh, thanks for being here. I'm just searching around to see if anybody had any questions to respond to. Also, I'm wondering if oh, the Mamdani video also. Yeah, hell yeah. I was really happy with that one. It felt like that was a nice successor to the Trump video, but in a kind of a compliment to it, in that obviously we know how I feel about Trump, and also we know how I feel about Mamdani, and I feel very differently about the two of those. I think I'm going to turn off slow mode, which I think prevents you from uh, sending messages. You can only send a message once a minute. I'm going to turn that off so you guys can respond more as frequently as you would like, and hopefully no one spams this chat. Okay. Slow mode is off. You guys can respond as quickly as you like now. How's everyone else doing? What's up? Wednesday. I'm on the West Coast, so it's a little past 3 here. I wonder if anybody's in a different time zone. Hmm. Let's see. I'm still learning all the functionality of this. I'm gonna create a Q&A. We'll see what that does. Okay, that's a great question, Selena. Oh boy. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm very confused by this interface. Give me one moment. Okay, I'm getting a kind of a backlog of questions. Wonderful. Let me go kind of in order. So thank you. I'm getting from info at hand says the algorithm showed me that video and I liked it. I think it was good because it is hard to decode what so many people like what he says. Yeah, exactly. It is decoding. I think is exactly the right word. It is. And the thing is, like, I think we all know what he's doing on some level, on a very like deep, unconscious, intuitive level. We know how he's trying to cast a spell on us and exert control. And yet we have all these kind of layers of conscious, I would say like denial or misrecognition or something that are telling us that no, actually you're not experiencing that. And so it felt easy in a way to just be like, come on, guys, like we all know this. And I think that was kind of the feedback I was getting from people. Like, yeah, like it wasn't like you told me something completely brand new. It was more like you just pointed out things that I already recognized. And that feels good because I don't intend to indoctrinate anybody. The point is to really just point everyone towards things that they already know. So, okay, going down the stack or up, whatever, down the queue, we have again, info at hand says, do you have a linguistics background or debate background? I'm interested in both of these. No, not really. I think the closest I got to linguistics is that I have a degree in computer science, and when I was studying computer science, I took a couple of classes specifically on natural language processing. So specifically on how computers interpret language, which is in many ways similar to, and in many ways very different from how humans interpret language. But I think it gave me a good set of tools to look at language and really break it down systematically. Everything else I've learned about language has just been from, I don't know, existing, speaking, having like a real lifelong obsession with getting a point across and not trying to like dominate the conversation, but actually to make sure that like other people are understanding what it is I'm trying to articulate. I also am a meditator. That comes up in a lot of this is coming up in some of the questions, comes up in some of the videos. And meditation, for those of you who do it, is really wonderful at kind of pointing out the difference between reality as you experience it, like this room, this is this is green, this is blue, this is red, and reality as it's kind of superimposed upon by all of the language that we use. And so, like, I think meditation just simplifies things in many ways and makes perception a lot more clear, and makes you alert to all of the ways in which, especially, language is used manipulatively to kind of overwrite your experience of reality. So that's my weird answer to do you have a linguistics background or debate background? Zero debate background. I've been practicing debate just with friends for the last couple of months because kind of in anticipation of doing this kind of work. But and also just feeling like in this environment, there's so like we're constantly being bombarded with propaganda and with people telling us untruths that it just feels very important to articulate the truth and to learn how to do that well. So if you're interested, then the fact that I have a background in neither should maybe be a source of inspiration because these are things you can definitely pick up on the spot. I think I think the passion matters a lot. So, okay, sorry, Selena, I referred to your question earlier, and now I'm coming back to it. What prompted you to make the Trump words video? It's a big shift from art and meditation. It is, but as I kind of have been saying in the past couple of minutes, it feels very connected. Meditation makes you very alert to the ways in which language, like I said, overwrites are what we kind of already know to be true about reality. And so, what prompted me to make the Trump words video? I saw that speech and I was just like, that's crazy. Like somebody's got to say something about this because it really like at a gut level struck me as so odd and so worth commenting upon. Um, and I'm very much into like flow states. So it just so happened that speech came out on a Wednesday night. I had a pretty light workload that day. I work from home, so from here, and I was just kind of in a flow state from morning to afternoon, working with the video. Um, I tried this new creative process where before I would like record the video separately from editing it. So I'd like go somewhere else in the room or somewhere else in the space and record the video and then edit it in a different stage. And with the Trump video, that was the first time that I just recorded it and edited it intermixed. And I think that had a really nice effect on the pacing of the video, where it just made the video much faster paced, and allowed me to overdub segments that felt like they were slower. Um, so, yeah, like just a note on the creative process, I feel like having that incremental feedback, being able to go over sections of your work that you feel are working versus sections that are not working, and to very quickly replace the parts that aren't working with the parts that are working is really integral to the creative process, at least has been for me so far. So, yeah. Those are all the questions I'm seeing so far. It's been super fun to answer those. I'm wondering if people have any more. We also have some new people joining the chat, so welcome. Great to see you all here. Hope you're having a good Wednesday afternoon, evening, I don't know, Thursday morning if you're across the globe. Would that be? Yeah, maybe in the morning, maybe late at night on Wednesday. What else? What else, guys? And you don't just have to ask questions. You could. I really am very curious to hear about this kind of community that's forming too. So anything that you guys want to share about yourself, your life, your interests, books. Love talking about books. Whatever you're reading, consuming. Uh, what are your plans for your next few videos? Oh man, I wish I could tell you. uh, I like, now that the channel is taking off a little bit, I'm like consuming a little bit more docs and videos about like how do you grow as a YouTuber, and they'll always say stuff like, "Well, have the next 10 videos planned out," and I just don't feel like I could really do that because the next 10 videos at a video a week are going to take me the next 10 weeks. That's 2.5 months. And so much is going to change by then. So I have all of these things that I'm interested in. Interested in, language, authoritarianism and propaganda and resisting authoritarianism, the intersection of like spirituality and ethics with all of those things. And I feel like those are going to dovetail with current events as I make the videos. So it's more often the case that I have all of these latent interests that then get kind of activated by some sort of event that's happening that week. Because as you guys know, like it's just videos do better when they are kind of in alignment with things that people are very interested in at the time. So plans for the next few videos. I mean, like I'll give you guys like a sneak peek. Things that I have tabled as interested in, like Tucker Carlson is a speaker that I think is really worth talking about right now because he's doing things that are much like Trump, but also much unlike Trump, and the ways that he has diverged from him is very interesting. Similar with JD Vance, he's definitely going to we're going to get to him at some point, but I also found from doing the Mamdani video that it's really important for me, and I hope important for the channel to alternate criticism with praise. I don't want it to be a 100% criticism channel because it's just not really how I operate, and I don't feel like that's really the most healthy way to create, excuse me, any sort of movement. If you're just constantly criticizing, I think it's important to have examples of health and not just sickness. So I don't know if that answers the question. Those are the next couple of videos. Great. Loving the questions. Thank you so much. Hmm. And for those of you who just got here, thank you. Welcome. Not just taking questions, very open to shares. Anything about you guys? Wow, Selena, we got thank you so lots of questions here. I love it. What would you think about talking about foreign figures such as my Keir Starmer, such a poor politician, or why figures like Mark Carney are so successful? You know what? I have to study up. I am not foremost a political person, a policy person, and I am moderately aware of what's going on in the UK politically. I'll be honest. Uh, I think very much in terms of culture and media. So a lot of what I know about the UK politics comes from people like Adam Curtis, the like experimental documentary filmmaker, who's fantastic. If you guys are familiar with him, also like writers who he has now sadly passed away, but Mark Fisher, really wonderful like essayist talking about the intersection of culture and politics from the UK. Um, I don't know much about Keir Starmer. I think I've seen like a John Oliver segment about him. I've seen Tom Nicholas is a great YouTuber who I know has talked about him quite a bit, but I am not as aware of him as I am the assholes in our own country, to be honest. Um, and then Mark Carney is the Canadian Prime Minister, right? Right, the leader of Canada. I would love to get better read on him because I know he gave this incredible speech last month, right, where he kind of describes the movement in geopolitics, like away from the U.S. centered. I'm sorry for even like articulating it that way, but like to a more like multipolar system. But I do need to read up much more on him. And the wonderful thing about this channel is that like it's giving me an excuse because I'm such like a nerd and I love researching. It's giving me such a great excuse to like, okay, I guess I am going to take like several hours to go do a deep dive on this thing because it actually matters now if I'm talking about it for multiple people, and it wasn't just like this private obsession. So Keir Starmer and Mark Carney are added to the list. Thank you. Thank you, Info at Hand. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you for joining. Hmm. Hey, I've gotten some wonderful questions from two people. It says we got four people in the chat, so it seems like we got some lurkers. If you want to share anything about yourself, feel free. If you want to lurk too, that's fine. I get it. I got a question from Maria Barcelo. Am I pronouncing that right? Let me know if it's wrong. Who asks, who would you want to see as president in 2020? That's a great question. Not sure. It's early to tell. I think you guys know which party I would prefer to be in the White House. I think I would very much not like to see the Republican Party continue their reign of terror, quite frankly. As I will vote for whoever the Democratic nominee is, assuming we even have a two-party system in 2028. I certainly have preferences when it comes to the primaries, but it's a little early for that. So I'll just say, like, stay tuned. Back to Selena, favorite tea, and yes, I'm being stereotypical, but maybe they're right. This, you know what? I had a friend introduce me to Lapsang Souchong, which is the black smoky tea, and it's definitely an acquired taste, but it feels very decadent whenever I have it. It just tastes like it smells like ash. It tastes like ash, but something about it is just really, really wonderful. I also love like an oolong, a jasmine, anything florals is really nice. I went through a year where I thought I was just going to be exclusively a tea person. I thought I was going to give up coffee, but that was too hard. And I think if we're honest, if I'm being honest with myself, if I'm not drinking coffee, these videos don't happen. So it's probably better that I be drinking coffee. If I were drinking tea, maybe we'd get more calm videos, maybe once a month from me or something. Maria, who would you want to see as president in 2028? It's a good question. Looks like we got a couple new people in here. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Just fielding questions from the chat. You're welcome to ask one, but you're also welcome to just share whatever you like. I'm trying to. I really don't want this to be. I'm trying to make this a very distributed, like decentralized network, if that makes sense. So my hope is that like people could actually find each other through this channel and really have a sense of community rather than a sense of just like top down anything. So share whatever you like in the chat, provided it's appropriate. We do moderate here in moderation. Thank you, Maria. Maria Barcelo has asked, how did you get into meditation? That's a wonderful question. I think the story shifts every time I tell it, but I think the like hard facts of the matter are that the first time I meditated was in 2017, and was something that someone introduced me to in college, and I found really helpful. But I'm coming to recognize that meditation is so connected with spirituality, and there are absolutely ways to do meditation in a secular context. And I was doing meditation in a secular context for several years, but I think it really grows out of a desire to be connected to something greater. You could call that God. You could call that a higher power. Interbeing is kind of a preferred term among Buddhists. But that desire kind of motivates meditation because meditation does connect you to that, and it does clarify things. So how did I get into it? I got into it via I guess a guided meditation that someone did for me, and then some books and some apps and some videos, and then it just snowballed. But why did I get into it is more a matter of, yeah, just like this deep driving philosophical inquiry into life and my life and wanting to like live a thoughtful life and a good life. Wonderful question. So we got Selena again. Hello. For me, speaking wishfully, Mamdani would be amazing. But realistically, oh, you're talking about 2028 presidents. Realistically, Gavin Newsom would do fine. Would do fine. That sounds about right. And then I've kind of given up on Bernie by this point, right? I'm not aware that Bernie is going to run in 2028. It would be wonderful if he did. Kind of keeping my ears to the ground as to whether AOC will. And then unfortunately, Mamdani not born in the United States. So as of right now, constitutionally, there's no way he could be president. Although we have the current president who seems to be ignoring the Constitution when it comes to whether he could be president in 2028. So who knows, man? If you guys know the creator Ryan Getty, he's wonderful. He does all sorts of political videos, and some of his most famous ones are talking about exploring who could be candidates in 2028, both on the Democratic side and on the Republican side. And he had another funny video where he was like exploring all the possible just futures that we could go down, and he like imagined some of these silly ones where Trump amends the Constitution so that it gets rid of whichever, I forget the amendment that restricts presidents to 2 terms, but it then enables Trump to run for a 3rd term, but also Obama to run for a 3rd term. So then Obama runs for a 3rd term and wins in 2028. It's a very silly imagined future, but it's a I always think about the guy, the villain from Get Out, who says that he would vote for Obama for a 3rd term if he could. I actually put that in one of the videos that I did release, but I took it out just for pacing. How's everyone else doing? What's on y'all's mind? Quite a week, quite a month, quite a year. It's spring though. I love spring so much. Got everything is bright and growing, and got a nice breeze. It's a good time. I always find my creativity comes easiest in the spring. Okay, again, we have Maria Barcelo asking, what are some of your hobbies? Um, you don't know? I guess for everyone else, this is the number one hobby at the moment, but it's lovely because it combines every single other thing I'm interested in. A huge reader. I mean, this is a tiny, tiny little sampling of my bookshelf, but I got a lot of books here that I like really central to what I'm trying to do here. I read. I try and read about an hour a day. Sometimes it's a little less than that if I'm busy. Sometimes it's more than that. But reading is such a joy. Meditation, of course, like I've mentioned several other places. Excuse me. I go for a lot of walks. I find walking is just so wholesome, so soul nourishing. And then rock climbing is a big thing for me. I'm not very good at it. I'm fighting, but I love it. And I'm finding that those are two very different things, actually. It's easy to be good at something and not love it. So I would take that side of the quadrant, the not very good at it, but love it over the alternative. Do you grow a garden? I do not. I would love to have a green thumb. I really feel like ecology, I can kind of sense when there's things that I'm gonna be interested in, like I'm getting a little foreshadowing of it. And ecology is a growing interest of mine because it just dovetails with so many other things. It dovetails with politics. It dovetails with ethics and spirituality. It dovetails with just the interconnectedness of all life. But if you can tell from that answer, I'm a very cerebral person. It's very different when it comes to actually like putting my hands in the dirt. So I would love to grow a garden. I think I'm heading in that direction, but I could use all the help I could get. So if you have any advice, please let me know. Where are you guys from, by the way? Like Selena, I'm assuming you are from the UK, given your questions. Where in the UK? I've been several times, spent some time in London, I spent some time in Oxford. Um, I mean, I love it. It's very green there. I love Ireland. So beautiful. All of the Isles. It's just so so much life there. I've been thinking I love the one of my favorite museums in the world too is the Tate Modern in London. My goodness. I've been thinking about that a lot this month too, as like I really just think about what the channel is aesthetically. And so much I just keep thinking about the way that the Tate Modern makes me feel and thinking, how do I make this channel feel like that? Same thing with like MoMA in New York or the Whitney. Um, just yeah, a modern art museum is kind of the vibe I want to give off here. We got Maria Barcelo, 8765 asking, who are some of your favorite artists? That's a wonderful question. I'm thinking, huh, what is art, right? Like music, visual, film. I think if I do a future live stream, I'm gonna enable sharing screen so I could have this whole visual display of my favorite artists. That's a little technically complicated right now, but um, in terms of like painters, I really love, actually, I can show you Hilma F. Klimt, who is, she's Nordic. I forget exactly which country, maybe Swedish. She has this painting. I've been meaning to put up for a while. It's really gorgeous. She actually included her in one of my Substacks recently. If you quick plug for the Substack, she's just very transcendental, very very spiritually inspired. When it comes to film, for a long time, my favorite director has been Andrei Tarkovsky, who's a Russian director. Actually, you, Maria Barceló, gave me this book. Actually, it was Santa. Sorry for outing you there, but I know it's being blurred, but he's just wonderful. If you guys know his work, he's a Russian kind of art director, active in the '60s through the '80s. Tragically, was probably actually I won't say that on stream, but he died under very mysterious circumstances, and he was a Russian citizen. So you can piece together what I'm inferring here. Um, he just phenomenal use of music too. Uh, J.S. Bach is one of my favorite musical artists. You hear him in some of my videos, and the way that Tarkovsky uses Bach really just like brings him to life in a way that's super cool. So, good question. Thank you. What are some of your favorite artists, Maria? I'd love to know. Hello to anyone who's just joining. Having a lot of fun in here. Just checking around to see if there were any other questions on the poll. Not really. Okay. Hmm. Well, I'm going to pose a question because as I make the videos, I'm something to always be mindful of is going deep versus going broad. Because as soon as you make something, the YouTube algorithm will hone in on that exact type of thing. And if you make that exact type of thing over and over again, you can get a big audience. And at the same time, that does lock you into doing things the same way forever. And so there will definitely continue to be these like political breakdowns of people's language. And I'm exploring ways to other ways to make videos in this channel, and I'm just wondering how people feel about that. If they would be offended if I were to depart for a week or two from the language breakdowns, or if they would be open to different kinds of videos and what kinds of things they would be open to seeing. Because I know like some people might be like, "Oh, that's not what I signed up for," unsubscribe, which is fair. Other people might subscribe. Just getting a feel for it. Ooh, we got some answers about people's favorite musicians. We got Shostakovich, beautiful. I mean, I love the what is it? The Waltz from Jazz Suite that's in Eyes Wide Shut. Such a great song. So cool. And Shostakovich, I might be confusing him with another Russian, but he got his start playing for movies, is my understanding, which is such an interesting, like contemporary way to get into music. As a I see him as like a classical musician, kind of as part of a lineage going back hundreds of years, but still playing for movies is a cool new type of musicianship. Uh, and then Dvorak and Schumann, hell yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Tchaikovsky as well. Uh, Ooh, hello, jokey guy Scratch. I haven't. You're the first. This is the first time I've heard from you in the chat. Wonderful to meet you. Um, I'm not familiar with this artist, but I'll check them out. This is a person who I assume does recordings of Tchaikovsky. I'll have to check that out. When I released the Mamdani video about a week ago today, or a week ago tomorrow, I went for a walk and was listening to some new Bach concertos, and I was just like, oh my god, because like I love his piano pieces, but when it's a concerto, it is just so lovely to see or not see to hear the I don't know, the synergy, if I will, between the orchestra and the musician. It's magical. Bach is magical. Tchaikovsky's love. I mean, that Nutcracker Suite, incredible. I love How to Do the Nutcracker Suite, where he like actually just slips in a little. I wonder if he just slips in a scale. So like suddenly, ba 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 bum ba ba da dum bum 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 bum. Like that is just a descending scale. Someone told me that he was like dared to sneak in a descending scale, and he did it excellently. So cool. Sorry. I've been told not to shake the camera by several commenters. Hello to anyone just joining. Got about 10 minutes left in the stream, depending on how much steam we got. If it picks up steam towards the end, we can go till 4. If not, we can call it at 3:45. And as a reminder, feel free to ask questions. Also, feel free to share about yourself. We've had some fun sharing our favorite musicians, favorite books, what you're reading right now, art you like, other forms of art, dance. I feel like I don't pay enough attention to dance. I'd like to. I'm also curious where people are from. I don't YouTube doesn't give me very fine-grained data, it just says, like, most people are in the US, some in the UK, some in Canada. Japan Japan posted in the background, what is the favorite place you've traveled? I, I mean, I feel so fortunate. I've been to Japan twice in my life. I'm planning on going for a third time this fall, which is partly why I dug this up. I got this poster when I was like a teenager, before I was even into like Zen Buddhism or anything. So it felt very like a bunch of premonition. Um, Japan is up there, like just Nara, seeing the deer at the temple, so cool. Kyoto. I listened to, if you guys know Lost in Translation, the Air song "Alone in Kyoto," which plays when Scarlett Johansson has like this scene where she's getting away from Bill Murray for a bit and goes to Kyoto and they play it, and it's just the most sensual song in the world. It's gorgeous. And it makes me think of Kyoto. And so Japan's up there. I've loved the time that I spent in the UK. I have been really itching to go back to Mexico City. Such a cool city, so beautiful, artistically and architecturally. Uh, what about you, Selena? What is your favorite place you've traveled? And we got okay. So I'm interpreting that these are where people are from rather than their favorite place that they've traveled. But we've got Jonathan Lang says Sweden, and oh hi, Iodine V. I've been getting a lot of comments from you. Very happy to see you again, Lynchburg, Virginia. Wonderful. There's another creator, you may know them, Jamel Bowie. He's a opinion writer for the New York Times and records wonderful YouTube videos, succinct, clever, right to the point. I really love his work, and he's in Virginia, and he's been taking his camera out for walks lately as he walks the dog. And oh my goodness, what I see of Virginia in the background is gorgeous. I actually lived in Virginia when I was a toddler for a year of my life. I have very few memories from it, but maybe that's a good thing. We got a hi from Identity. Hello to you too. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Hope everyone's having a wonderful day. Yeah, the great question. So, Joking Guy Scratch says, have you thought about possibly doing longer videos to go more in depth? I think that would be interesting to see. Absolutely. I would like to make longer videos. I have made longer videos. If you go back, the first video on this channel is an interview I did with a teacher of mine and a great friend. That video is a little over an hour. There's also a video I put up that is about awareness, pure awareness. That's about 17 minutes long. So, there's that famous aphorism about like, I'm sorry for the long letter. If I had had more time, it would be shorter. That's how I feel about making YouTube videos at the moment. I feel like it's worth my time and it's worth your time for me to make them as compressed as possible, just for the simple fact that the shorter a video is, I believe, and I could be wrong about this, the farther it can travel. So I see my work in this season as kind of like writing pop songs, as it were. Like I'm really inspired by pop, actually, and like the Max Martins and the Jack Antonoffs, but going further back, like the ABBA songwriters of the world and the Paul McCartney's, like just fitting everything into like 3 to 5 minutes. Um, Now that said, there's a lot of things I've been shelving and thinking I would love to do a longer video about this. I would also love to explore more, just more cinematic techniques in this channel too. So it's not just me talking to camera, which it isn't presently. Like there's all this interleaving of clips and music, but I want to go further in that direction. Like I love film. I see this as a form of filmmaking, and so I would love to do things that are more documentary style, to explore a topic for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I just need to be sure that the audience is there, right? Because like making the longer a video is, I guess I'm undercutting my point now. Sometimes the longer a video is, the easier it is to make, and sometimes the longer a video is, the harder it is to make. And I am the type of person for whom, if the video is longer, it's going to take longer to make. And so I don't feel confident about doing that until I can be assured that there's a sufficient audience demand for it. It would just take a lot of time to produce like a 30-minute video and then for it to kind of fall flat. But we're headed in that direction. I would love to. I think, you can mark my words. You can come back to me in 6 months if I've lied about this. But I think, maybe by the fall, we'll be seeing videos that are more in the like 20-minute range. Wonderful question. I really like that one. Jonathan Lang asks, "Do you have a favorite book?" Oh my, how much time do you have? Given the, I've got momentum, so we can stay till 4. Do you have a favorite book? Any general book recommendations you tend to give to people? I mean, I have many favorite books, and it really depends on what you're interested in. Like if you let me know in the next like 30 seconds, Jonathan, I can tailor the answer to that. Where you're coming from and what kind of books you like. Um, I read a lot of philosophy. So a really formative book for me, actually. This is kind of at the intersection of philosophy and psychology. It's called The Master and His Emissary, if you're familiar with that one. Came out in the last maybe like 15 years ago. It's by someone with a medical background who is very familiar with the differences between the left and the right hemispheres of the brain, but it's not like your standard Instagram infographic. Like the left hemisphere is artistic, and the right hemisphere uh, is an engineer, and the left hemisphere is is a man, and the right hemisphere is a woman. That's like the reductive version of it. That's not at all how it is. He basically says that your left and right hemispheres are presenting you entirely different perceptions of the world and entirely different ways of being in the world. And that, like, what we see from people who have lesions in parts of their brain, either on the left hemisphere or the right hemisphere, is that they just inhabit different worlds, essentially. There's a really interesting case with a woman named, on her name right now. I'll think of it in a second. But she had a stroke that impacted the left side of her brain, and she had genuinely like a mystical experience because she was basically just experiencing reality through the right hemisphere. Um, all of that ties back into this book. It takes a long time to read. I actually listened to it on audiobook, so this is just for showing off, I guess. I got the physical copy before. I was like, I don't have time for this. Let's do the audiobook while we're like driving. Um, Oh, you jumped in. Okay, philosophy and fiction are generally my favorites. Literary fiction and medicine. This sounds sick. Yeah, you would love this. I will say too, if you're not already familiar with him, I'll grab his book too. Um, So if you like at the intersection of philosophy and fiction, like you could not do better than Borges, Jorge Luis Borges. This is like a really like old vintage version of his book Labyrinths. And then if you like go into a Barnes and Noble, you'll probably see this version, which is his collected fictions. He was a Argentinian short story writer and librarian who was so well read but also so mystical and subversive and playful. Every one of his short stories is like 10 pages long. It's not even that long. And it's not even so much plot based as it is world based. Like he's just creating all of these incredible fictional worlds. Like one of his most famous stories is called the excuse me, the Library of Babel, where he describes like an entire universe that is nothing more than a library. So like you are just in every direction. There's books, but the thing is, the books are not written by an author. They are basically random, and so it's gibberish. So it's kind of a warning to anybody who likes books that he's kind of just giving you the worst case scenario of what you like. You can have every book in the world, and none of them mean anything. So kind of chilling Borges too. Be careful with him. But if you like philosophy and fiction and literary fiction, could not do better than him. Okay, so I'm gonna move on from that question. We have Selena again asking, "What do you think about Wikipedia? Do you contribute? Do I contribute? I don't contribute to Wikipedia. Perhaps I should. I don't think that is really how my creative drive has manifested itself. I'm more interested in like originality of expression. And I don't feel, to be honest, like there's many domains in the world where I could say like I know this domain better than anybody else in the world, or like I have a unique data point to contribute to it. I think what I'm better at is synthesizing information. So I'm not necessarily the first to get to any field. It's more, not really the first on anything, but like it's more about just putting together disparate fields. So I love Wikipedia. I use it a lot for research. Use it as kind of a jumping off point too. I get a lot of mileage out of going to the bottom of the Wikipedia page and actually going to the various articles that are being referenced there. But contributing, no, that hasn't really come from me yet. Maybe later. I say that about a lot of things. Like it hasn't come for me yet. Life is long. Who knows what I'll be into a decade from now. Maria, oh, Jokey I Scratch, thanks so much for the answer. You're so welcome. Oh, that was about the longer videos. Yeah, totally. My pleasure. And then Maria Barcelo again asks, my last name is Barcelo. This is Maria Barcelo. You guys can figure out what's going on here. What are some of your favorite films? Again, going back to Tarkovsky, he has a film called Mirror, which is a beautiful short film, which is rare for him. He usually makes very long films. Um, that is basically what it feels like to fall asleep, is how I would describe it. There is a loose plot, but it is structured so non-linearly and poetically. It is just a collection of memories that he's had all interwoven. And it's actually about motherhood, about his relationship with his mother. So a lot of it is like reenacted scenes from the life of his mother, and then other scenes, his mother as a young woman, and then him relating to his mother once his mother is older and he's older. So that is just a Mirror by Andrei Tarkovsky, stunning film. Another film that I would love to talk about on the channel when we get there is called Sans Soleil by a French director called Chris Marker. Sans Soleil is like allegedly a documentary. It's kind of a travelogue, if you will. He's taking all of his footage from various places that he's been in the world and just much like Mirror, interweaving them completely poetically with this stream of conscious narration. It's basically as much a novel as it is a film. Um, and that's Sans Soleil, which is French for sunless by Chris Marker. I love that film. I would love to either make a video essay about it or make a video that is somehow like inspired by it or working in the same vein as it, because that's very formative for me. I also love, if we're talking about contemporary films, I think like Mulholland Drive is like a surrealist psychological thriller from 2001. I'm sure there are people watching who know this, just based on areas of convergence. But people who don't know, one of the best films ever made, and I think really probably the best film of the 21st century, by David Lynch, who's a very famous American surrealist film director. Yeah, you guys got me started. Favorite books, favorite films. We got to end this stream eventually. And you do not want me just going until it gets dark. What else? What else? That was a good run of questions we had. And thank you to hello, and thank you to anyone who's just now joining. We're fielding questions, but also shares, whatever you guys want to talk about. Hmm. Ooh, wonderful question from Iodine V. Do you read sci-fi? It probably seems from the outside as if I do, but not as much. I would love to. I think the kind of sci-fi that really gets me is more like what I would call speculative fiction. So sci-fi, when it touches philosophical concepts, there's a big backlog of sci-fi that I want to read. People have told me that Octavia Butler's The Parable of the Sower is incredible. I need to read that. I need to read Ursula Le Guin's The Dispossessed. People have told me I will love that one. And then more recently, I think a lot of people talk about Kim Stanley Robinson's The Ministry for the Future. And there's, of course, what is it? The Three Body Problem. I've been meaning to read that for years, but I haven't read any of them. And yeah, I'm a little behind on my sci-fi. If you have recommendations, please let me know. Because I put it that question about what people are reading, and I think I remember you said something about reading sci-fi. It's funny. I know there's like this trope that men don't read. There's been a lot of like articles about that lately, and like clearly I'm not in that category. But like going one step further, they say that men don't read fiction in particular, like that when they do read, and this is a gross stereotype, but like that they read like a lot of business books and self-help. I don't so much read that, but it's true that I haven't read as much fiction as I would like over the last 5 or so years. I've really transitioned mostly to nonfiction. And sometimes I just feel, because I don't know, I have just like this driving desire to be learning perpetually. And a part of me like says like, well, like, and I would never besmirch anyone else for reading fiction. I think fiction is beautiful, but a part of me just feels like, it's a missed opportunity to be learning if I'm going to be reading a book and it's fiction. But that's bullshit. Like there's so many fiction books I want to read and be catching up on, and sci-fi is a big part of that. Do you play Oh, Selena says, "Do you play board games? If so, which do you like?" Well, you should ask, Maria Barcelo, who's in the chat. We love board games, big board game, community. Um, really into Catan. I know that's kind of the, uh I I won't qualify it. Catan's a great game. It's Monopoly-esque in that there is a very much it's a winner take all kind of game, and you can tell pretty quickly whether you're ahead or behind. So when I'm behind, it's not so fun a game, but when I'm ahead, oh man. I mean, you just gotta okay, you gotta get wood and you gotta get brick in like the first third of the game, and then you gotta build your road, and then basically don't get stuck on any one strategy is how I do it. You've just got to be responsive to whatever you have. Um, Other board games, we got really into this game called Azul, where you're like making a cathedral, which really dovetails with my interest because it's not just strategic, but it's also very beautiful. So I love Azul. I don't know that people in my family love it quite as much as me because I'm always roping them into it. But yeah, good question. Yeah, I'd envy Kim Stanley Robinson covers a lot of big social concepts. That's what I've heard. I really like Ezra Klein. He's very well known podcaster for the New York Times, previously for Fox, and he is on the record as being a big fan of Kim Stanley Robinson. So that's enough of an endorsement for me. Ooh, and we got Jonathan Lang. Yeah, I feel you. I kind of feel like fiction has to teach me something for it to be valuable. I know. I hate that I live in a world where I feel that way. I wish I could. I feel like when I was in, I mean, I loved fiction when I was a kid more before I like was kind of put in this, I don't know, like industrialized, whatever, uh, very neoliberal system where you have to be optimizing every moment. And learning doesn't quite feel like optimizing to me because prior to this month, I've never made a cent off of anything that I've ever learned from a book. But um, yeah, it just feels like there's a slightly bigger hurdle to reading fiction. I will say, this month I picked up George Saunders's. Let me just grab it. One person whose fiction I have read pretty recently and do read pretty obsessively is George Saunders. He's a short story writer. He's author of Lincoln in the Bardo, which is a novel, but of many short story collections. And he wrote this lovely book a couple years ago during the pandemic called A Swim in the Pond in the Rain, where he takes various short stories by Russian authors and just explains them as he would in his like master's class at Syracuse. And he is phenomenal. He is such a good writer and such a good guy, if I can just put it out there. So you get the sense that, creativity is such a like fiction is a way to confront the big issues of life, a way to deal with philosophy and just what it means to be on planet Earth. And so this book, maybe this counts as fiction because like every half of the book is reading short stories by Russian short story writers, Tolstoy, Chekhov, Dostoevsky, Turgenev. But it's good. It's good. I would recommend this one actually. And this is really informing the video making. Surprisingly, it's not about YouTube in any way, but it's about storytelling. And it's really informing how I structure the videos where I'm thinking a lot more about what's the story here? How do I actually guide the viewer through an arc, if you will, an arc maybe from confusion to clarity, an arc of not knowing something or being confused about something, or knowing something but not knowing that they know it to knowing it. I wish I could care much about fantasy as I did when I was in my mid-teens. Yeah, exactly. It's easier to read fiction when you're young, I think. I would love to read more of it these days. Maybe having a friend helps. I don't think they're here, but I had a friend invite me to a book club, a fiction book club, and I was so grateful that I did. But at the same time, I was like, do I have the time for this? Like a nonfiction book club, I could do easily, but I was a little just like protective for that one. God, again, Selena, Catan, and Azul were both some of my favorites when I was younger. Hell yeah. Currently, I'm quite enjoying. Ooh, Rainer Knizia's Rebirth. I am taking note of that. I love the word. Light to get light to get into, but a lot of strategy when you look deeper. That's so much wisdom there. I find the best things are light to get into and profound when you get deeper. Man, I'm just like I feel like I'm hitting my stride now, but I don't know. I'll kind of take it based on the rate of questions in this chat. We can wind down if the questions wind down. We can keep going depending on the questions. It's kind of like waiting for your when you put popcorn in the microwave and you like once the interval between pops gets long enough. That's how I feel about this chat when I'll call it. Ooh, okay. Reiner Knitzia tried my best. I'm trying my best too. Not sure if it's good enough, but I'm trying. Hmm. Pretty good. I'll take it. Ooh, Iodine V. I can't read anything but fiction. I just can't focus otherwise. I like sci-fi and historical fiction because I at least learned something along the way. I mean, that's the thing. I felt so not sad isn't the right word, but like compassionate when I got a couple of answers to the poll about like, what do you read? Where people were like, I don't like reading, or I reading makes me upset. I can't read. I don't want to. I was just like picking up on all this resistance to it. And yeah, if I felt that way about reading, I would never want to read ever either. Like we don't do the things in our life that we feel like we should, but there's not incentive to do them. Like we do the things in our life either that we have to do or that we want to do. And if reading is, for most people in most professions, not something you have to do. And so in order to do it, you have to want to do it. And to have to want to do it, you have to read stuff that you like, like so many people, like, I'm going to be honest, I think this is more of a male thing, especially like, uh, if I could just like spill it to you, like maybe like adolescent men really, and I was one of these too. I think I've outgrown this for the most part. Like, feel like you have to read like James Joyce or David Foster Wallace or Sartre or somebody. And you don't ever have to like you could if you wanted to, but if you only ever read one book and it's like Infinite Jest versus you read 20 books and they're like romantasy, I would so much rather you read the 20 books because you're just motivated and you're enjoying it. And you could enjoy Infinite Jest, to be clear. I've heard it's actually quite fun to read in parts. But yeah, to go back to your question, yeah, if you can't focus, don't read it. We focus on things that we like. So you got to like it. Hi from Australia. Well, hello. Hi from California. Been enjoying your channel. Thank you. I've been enjoying making the videos. We got Selena, similar to Ray. Selena reads mostly nonfiction. I think that's probably like an emerging trend among people who watch this channel. I'm into mostly geography, history, urban planning alike. Fiction just doesn't click. I wish I could, but nonfiction is more for me. Yeah, I love that. Geography, I don't know that I've read a much of. If you ever ask, let me know. I've heard people have said like How to Hide an Empire is really good, or like there's that one book about like a history of maps or something like where like they explain the world in terms of maps and just like whether you're close to water, whether you're landlocked, all of these things really determine how a country is shaped. History, yeah, I like history. History needs to dovetail though with like with the present for me to be interested in it. I always thought like growing up, I didn't like history in school because it just like was so much the history of power and the history of so it was so like war focused and military focused, and some of it was honestly like, if I'm being honest, like propagandistic. And reading, like, I mean, I have actually right here a People's History of the United States, which I have not finished, but learning about the history of people who live lives more like my own has been totally transformational in like being much more interested in history. Urban planning, very interested. When I lived in New York for a year, and like in order to get excited about living there, I picked up Jane Jacobs's what is it, The Death of American Cities. I didn't finish that either, but I was really delighted by what I read. I don't know whether how people feel about Jane Jacobs anymore. If you have thoughts, Selena, on Jane Jacobs. Uh, Rabbit hole, but I liked what I read of it. I think urban planning is super, super fascinating, It's probably something I'll get into again in the future. How we doing, guys? We got I can stay longer but because I'm having fun. You can do anything if you're having fun, but if there's like no questions over the next couple of minutes, we can call it. Speak about history in school. When I read American textbooks, I get sad because it's almost always all propaganda, America centric, or just misleading. I mean, you said it, not me. It's been a long time since I looked at a high school textbook. I don't know why I would. I'm sure they're doing well given the constraints. I don't mean to besmirch like history teachers. I'm sure. I mean, this is the thing that I'm increasingly finding. Like, especially as I talk about individuals, it's easy to criticize individuals, like to point a finger at the person who wrote the history textbook and say, "Why did you make something so propagandistic?" But like, that's just not how it works. We live in systems. And actually, the person who wrote the textbook that's propagandistic did so because they were subject to all sorts of incentives um, that they were not fully in control of. And maybe if they didn't write that propagandistic textbook, they wouldn't be in the position that they're in. So I don't feel angry towards individual nodes in this web that we're in anymore. I'm so really sorry. I like really went cosmic with your answer, but um, yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm curious if your textbooks are better. It's interesting. It's interesting. I'll say that. I think many people are doing their best. Like, I'm very grateful for the teachers that I had in high school. Teaching is such a noble and like really hard profession. And so, I mean, like I see a lot of what I'm doing here is teaching, and it makes me appreciate just how freaking hard it is to be like and hard and challenging and enjoyable uh, and and just juicy it is to be a teacher. So no shade to the history teachers out there. You're doing good work. Ooh, yeah, Jonathan Land recommends Erasure by Percival Everett. That is the book that inspired American Fiction, right? I loved that movie. I thought that was quite good. And I've been meaning to read James, his follow-up. That's the Huckleberry Finn reinterpretation. Actually, shoot, that's we're talking about reading fiction. That James would be a good read, as would Erasure. Which is funny, actually. I've been thinking not about Erasure because I haven't read it, but about American Fiction, which again I can't fully connect to because it's about an identity that I don't share. But like the central conflict of that character being that he like sees himself as a scholarly type person who then suddenly has a commercial hit and is trying to figure out how to like put those two worlds together in a way that feels true to himself. I mean, I'm actually maybe making more of his motives than the movie does because the movie plays it for more comedy. But yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot. Yeah, Selena says, yeah, just V says James is on there to what does TBR stand for? To be read. I can infer. But yeah, James Book Club maybe in this community. Selena says, I found then that outside of school I learned more. Reading was to me good fun. I read on my own about military political history. Very interesting. I wow. Yeah, I would love to. Military is not something that's really ever crossed my mind. Um, it is increasingly since I covered Pete Hegseth. I had a very astute commenter talk a lot about how offer a bit more of like explanation and kind of like a defense of what Pete Hegseth was doing, given their relationship to the military, which it takes it really seriously. I thought that was a very good comment, and made me think a lot more about what it is that service people do, and you know how to respect that more. At school, I do not recall being enthused with how things worked. Yeah, I mean, school is a grab bag. I had a good time in school for the most part, and then when I didn't, I'm finding it was because usually propaganda was involved somehow. Like that is when I felt like I wasn't learning so much as I was being kind of impressed upon. Well, anything else? It's been a delight. I was so like, actually, this is my first time doing this. so anxious about it all morning. Anxious in an excited way, but, like, so fun once I got into it. This is great. I hope I looked at the camera enough too. Like, sorry, the camera's here, my laptop is here, so I hope it doesn't look like I'm, like, avoiding eye contact. Yeah, no problem. Selena says, "I hope the wording does not come off as condescending, but where do you like to get your news, cable, social media, et cetera?" I don't see that as condescending at all. Um, I will preface this by saying I would like to pay for news more. I don't currently pay for any news, and I'm gonna get canceled for saying that, but, like, I should. And just as like, a quick plug as somebody who's now doing creative work and doing something journalism adjacent for, at the moment, like, monetization, like ad money, it's labor. Like, every time you consume a YouTube video, every time you read an article, there is, like, in labor behind that work that is not necessarily visible. And that makes me feel much more, passionate about supporting journalism, and especially, we're always told to support local journalism in particular. So just a quick plug: so go support some creators that you like. Go support local journalism because it really is integral work, and it's stuff that they need to. These journalists are not usually running around with like fur coats or anything like that. You're putting food on their table. But I'm dodging your question. Where do I like to get my news? I recently got the Ground News app, which I guess I'm paying. That's more of a, I'm now paying a tech company rather than the news themselves. I don't know if they share the profits. But Ground News really helps, and this is not a plug, they're not paying me, but if you guys have seen ads for it or use it, it's like a very good aggregator for various news sources across the internet. So I'll usually like track the main stories in any given week or any given day using Ground News, and then from Ground News consult a couple of different sites on that same story. It's funny, since I got Ground News, I've read a lot more Fox News. I've read a lot more Breitbart. I've read a lot more Drudge Report, which is pushing me further left, to be clear, but it's making me very aware of how the right frames things, what the right is talking about, which is really useful. I like, please don't clip this out of context, but like, I would recommend reading just if not even the articles, just some of the headlines from right-leaning sources from time to time, just to understand how they're framing issues. But then when it comes to what I'm actually reading, like a lot of AP, Associated Press, Reuters, NPR, New York Times. Then, like on YouTube, I consume kind of a more lefty. I have a more of a lefty media diet. So, like, Democracy Now does great work. Highly recommend Democracy Now. Drop Site News, a couple other more like, oh, Heather Cox Richardson, of course, does incredible work. And then I mentioned a couple people earlier today. Jamel Bowie and Ryan Getty on YouTube are doing great work. Highly recommend both of them. Oh man, and people are dropping in now, an hour later. Okay, awesome. Let me catch up. You also read very little in high school. I got really into reading at uni. Yeah, exactly. Jonathan Lang. I don't know, man. It's something shared history here because I also study. I have an injured. If I don't know if it shows, but like I actually studied. I am an engineer by training. Um, and same thing. I fell madly in love again with reading when I was like 19 in 2017. Actually, like the same around the same patch of time that I got more into meditation. That felt like a very big, just like a what is it, like a consciousness shift that year. Um, so reading, yeah. Iodine V, I'm glad I caught the end of your stream. I turned on the notification bell so I can join from the beginning this time. Okay, cool. I'm glad you joined too. I'm so grateful to anybody who popped in, and now that we have more people than we did at any point in the stream, I can keep going. I'm wondering what could be done differently in order to get more people in at the beginning, whether like asking people to click the bell or posting in advance. I'm not really sure, but we'll find out. Selena, it's been a good time listening and talking. So wonderful. You are the number one commenter, it seems. It's been really great getting to know you and hearing all your questions and responding to them. Thank you so much for coming. Hope to see you soon. And you guys know you can reach me. I mean, you can comment. You can access my email, this channel specific email. If you go to the channel, and click a little button at the top. It'll give you access to my email if any of you want to like directly. If you have any like questions that you don't want to post in the comment section, because like I really do see this as like an ecosystem, as a community. Just quick plug again for my Substack. For those like I don't know if people are tired of hearing about it, but everything that I do here on YouTube has grown out of the writing that I've been doing on Substack for several years. The focus has shifted a little bit. Substack is a bit more about meditation, spirituality, reading, the contemplative life, all of these things. YouTube is a little more political, but I really like if you want to go more and you're like, oh, he doesn't have enough videos yet. I know I don't. I'm working on it. The labyrinth on Substack is really your next place to explore. Jessica Permati says, "I'm here supporting you." Thank you, Jessica. I'm here supporting you, but I really appreciate that. Selena says, doesn't pay for news either. I know. Well, I mean, yeah, it's another thing I didn't really learn in school, like just the realities of the media ecosystem that we live in. It's really tough. It's kind of a miracle that we have an independent media at all in the United States. I really wish it were stronger. And I'm more and more grateful for it every passing year as we see so many assaults on it. That was something I'm in. Actually, like the assault on free speech is something that might be the topic of my next video, because it's hard to be in the media these days, in the news in particular. AP TLDR, I don't know that, but I mean, I love not reading because things are too long. The BBC, yeah, BBC is a good source, especially when it comes to getting an international perspective on things. Thank you for that reminder. For the US, NPR for sure. Public radio and news is wonderful, and it's so sad that it's underfunded. Indeed. I don't have anything to add to that. Please fund your independent and local news. Oh, Jonathan Lang said, "Damn, the type. I'm doing my master's in bioengineering." Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I studied computer science with a concentration in AI, which is like, if you're here at the very beginning of my stream, was talking about the connections between, I was learning a lot about natural language processing, which is like how computers know what language is. And that has translated weirdly into all of the like linguistic adjacent work that I'm doing here, despite I am not by any means a linguist. Yeah. Thank you to that we got more people in here now. Hello to all the new people. You can ask a question. You can share whatever's up. Whatever's on you guys' minds and hearts. This is super fun. By the way, I was worried it was going to be like honestly very draining or intense, but ooh, okay. It seems like we got like throwaway 3. Hello. Pretty late, but what's a book that changed or altered how you interpret people's behavior in real life? That's a great question. I'm like trying to take that question seriously. Changed or altered how you interpret people's behavior in real life. So like this is, I've been explicit about this elsewhere, but like a lot of what I do is informed by meditation and by Buddhism. This is not a plot. You don't have to be Buddhist to watch the channel, and I don't think the channel is necessarily trying to indoctrinate you to any specific belief system. But Zen Buddhism in particular has given me a really useful handle on the mind, my mind, your mind, the mind that we all have, and why people behave the way that they do. So I could really pick any Zen book, which is not like a how to win friends and influence people approach to behavior. It is more of a just helps me understand and empathize with other people's behavior, because I mean, it really starts with empathy. I think a lot of emotional intelligence, a lot of intuition, a lot of communication is rooted in empathy, having a theory of mind for other people. So let me look. Let me search my other shelf to find you a good book. If you guys are familiar with Thich Nhat Hanh, he was a sorry, my camera is like blurring. There we go. Thich Nhat Hanh, Vietnamese Zen monk, peace activist, and then founder of many meditation communities in the US, in France, and elsewhere. Beautiful, beautiful writer. Very, very simple and accessible. I've now read too many, quite frankly, Buddhist or meditation related books, but Thich Nhat Hanh was the very first one I read. And so anything by him, I find this one really delightful. The Pocket Thich Nhat Hanh will help you, how did you phrase it? Interpret people's behavior differently. It'll do a billion other things, but it will do that thing too. Man, I want to spend more time on these questions, but we're getting more. This is wonderful. Jessica Permati says, "Do you speak any other languages other than English?" I'm a very intermediate Spanish speaker. No hablo muy bien, pero español era mi primera lenguaje. I learned Spanish first and learned English I guess concurrently, but maybe with more emphasis on Spanish for the first year of my life. Uh, it's been a goal of mine to get much better at Spanish and to do so like conversationally. Do you speak any other languages? I'm fascinated by languages, utterly fascinated. It's kind of embarrassing that I don't really speak more. Not that I would judge anybody for being monolingual. Okay, Selena says, "What are your thoughts on the recent AI boom?" Interesting to hear your thoughts from your perspective of being a computer scientist. AI is a blind spot for me, and one I am working to understand better. There are a couple of things that I just don't feel qualified to speak very well on, despite studying it. When I studied it, that was 7 years ago, and the field, as we all know, is changing incredibly quickly. I'm also ultimately rooted in concerns about ethics and human flourishing. So to the extent that I'm interested in AI, I am mostly interested in how it affects humans, how it affects the planet, how it affects the ecosystems that we're a part of. And there's a lot that concerns me about it, to be frank. There's a lot that's incredible about it as well. I think it is very much a double edged sword. And I'm a little concerned about the conditions under which it's being produced, with the current administration in charge, with the people in Silicon Valley who are developing it. I think there's a lot to be very concerned about. Um, that's something I'd be very interested in, like the audience's takes on too, like understanding how you guys feel about AI and what I don't know what concerns you have about it, what passions you have about it. Because not that I'm like trying to base my opinion on your guys' opinion, but I'm more interested in like just an emergent understanding of it. It's a good question. It's definitely something that will be a focus of mine coming up, but I don't think immediately. Oh, Jonathan Lang kind of just assumed you're a linguist. Cool. I'll take it. I love when people assume I'm things I'm not, mostly. Thanks for the fun stream. Bye. Bye, Jonathan. Great seeing you. Selena, an addendum to my above question. What do you think about the OpenAI Claude thing with the US DoD? That is another story that I'm not as informed about as I could be. So I could make a couple of maybe snide or uninformed remarks. I'm going to refrain from doing so because I just don't know enough about that yet. Oh, Jessica Permati, call me Jess. No worries. Totally. And then Jess says, "I speak Bahasa Indonesia and I'm trying to learn Portuguese." Very interesting. Are those two separate languages, Bahasan and Indonesian? I'm not familiar with those, but sounds super fascinating. And Portuguese is a beautiful language. Love the sound of it. I like when I hear Brazilians speak it. I like when I hear Portuguese people speak it. Throwaway 3 says, "Coincidentally, I am getting into meditation too, matter of fact. I was about to do it, but got here, I drifted. Mind is currently a mess." Well, I won't keep you from meditating, but I will say there's so many ways to meditate. And I'm saying that from the bottom of my heart. Like, seated meditation is just one form of meditation. I think being around another person who is calming and clear is another form of meditation. So much is transmitted non-verbally from person to person. I'm not saying this necessarily about myself, but I'm saying I have had meditative adjacent experiences from being in the presence of people who meditates a lot and just transmit something to me. I'm not even talking like mystically, but just, the calm and the presence really are quite contagious in a very good way. So you could meditate, and you should, and in the aggregate, but you could also like going for a walk can be so meditative for me. Artistic practice is so meditative, et cetera, et cetera. Jess says, I don't have much of a personal opinion on AI. I feel like any thoughts I have are based on whatever my feed has shown me. So very serviceable at the moment. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like most thoughts that most people have about most things are surface level. And that's not a knock on people. That's just how information travels. It takes time to develop a deep understanding of anything. And so most of our understandings are always going to be surface level at first. I mean, maybe that's why I post so infrequently. Sorry for shaking the camera. Because I don't really intend to make a video on anything unless I have a deeper understanding of it. I don't want to make surface level videos, which is part of why I'm kind of refraining from talking about AI so far. But yeah. Oh, okay. Bahasa Indonesia is what Indonesian language is called. Thank you. That's really cool. Bahasa just means language. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but that's really fascinating. Indonesia. Would love to go someday. Oh, and then Selena is chiming in. Earthquake. Yeah, no, oh my god, I live in California, so I'm chronically afraid of earthquakes, but thankfully not in this case. I'm pronouncing it perfectly. Well, I intended that. Selena says Bahasa Indonesia is like a lingua franca in Indonesia. Oh, interesting. It's a sort of government language, and to help communication, it is linguistically a standardized form of Malay. I'm learning so much from y'all. This is fascinating. Maria Barcelos says, thank you so much, Ray. I'm really enjoying your podcast, and this live chat was great. Thank you so much, Maria. Happy you could join. What plans did you have today other than chilling with us? I wonder if that's a thinly coded way to tell me to get off the stream. Maybe I'm projecting. Uh, I've had a wonderful day. I got lunch with my neighbor. Actually, we went and got had like egg sandwiches, really tasty. Ate them outside. I'm gonna go exercise in a bit, and like obviously I've been working both my paid job and also doing work for this channel. We're gonna shoot for a video tomorrow. I'm trying for videos every Thursday, but I've been a little backed up this week, so don't quote me on that. We will see what happens. What plans did you have today? Jess says, "What? Just curious what another person's day-to-day life might look like. It's midnight where I am." Yeah, I'm curious what people's day-to-day lives are too. There's a comedian I adore. Her name is Joe Firestone, and she had a really lovely podcast a couple of years ago. I forget what it was called. I think it was called like Everyday Decisions or something, and it was so minute and observational. She just started a podcast with her friends and asked them about the minutia of their day. And be like, not everybody could make that work, but Joe is so wonderful that she really I was so fascinated to learn about the minutia of everyone's days and the diversities of people's days, just drastically different ways of spending a day. Throwaway 3, do you avoid pop culture? Quite the opposite. I am a pop culture fiend. I love pop culture. Um, I've spent years of my life where I was more heads down, more focused on meditation and spirituality or reading, just the kind of the depth parts of life. I am very much in a I don't know, just a vibrant enjoyment. Joy is like a big part of my life these days. And so like I am fully steeped in pop culture. I love movies, I love music. I'm eating it all up. And I think part of what makes this channel, part of what's really defining this channel is the movement from being a little outside of the pop culture and talking about just the things that I want to talk about, which is good for attracting maybe a small number of people to just fucking, excuse me, freaking diving into pop culture and being interested in the things that other people are interested in. Like I said, I used the word Riz in my channel last week. I don't know if that came off as cringe or not, but yeah, pop culture is beautiful. I don't know if you're here when I talked about thinking about creating my videos, which are usually like 5 minutes long, in the same way as people think about writing a pop song. In that pop is there's nothing wrong with popularity. I think a lot about pop art. I think about Andy Warhol and Keith Haring. I had on his shirt earlier, and just that like I think about Kate Bush. She's one of my favorite artists. Very experimental, but of course also had huge pop hits with like Running Up That Hill. And you know, pop is just another color in your toolbox. Popularity is just another tool to work with. So I actually quite love pop culture. I love the question. I'm curious where it comes from. What your relationship to pop culture is. Selena Sai says, "What is your favorite cuisine?" As I understand it, it is approaching American dinner time on the West Coast. I eat a late dinner. I'm eating at like 8 p.m., so it's a long time before I'm going to eat. But I mean, I love it. I love um, Thai food. I love Japanese food. Love Mexican. Excuse me. Ethiopian. I've only had it a couple times in my life, but with the spongy bread, my lord, really good. Jess says, "OMG, I love you guys." I think that's the spongy bread. Was this in reference to Ethiopian food? Yeah, who doesn't love it? Sushi is lovely, but I can't stand fish. Well, that would do it. I mean, there's a couple of rolls you can have that don't have fish, but that's kind of the centerpiece of the sushi, if we're being honest. So I don't blame you. Ooh, Jess says, any pets, or would you like any? Well, oh, I can't show it to you because it's on my phone, which I'm recording from. But in the next couple days, you guys will get a video of the dogs that are not mine. They're my parents. Adorable little Shih Tzu poodles. They weigh like 5 pounds. They're like you could fit them in a handbag. They're just tiny and adorable. Their names are Minnie and Mochi. I've been trying to work them into the stream somehow. Haven't found a way to do so yet, but absolutely will do so at some point. They're pretty great. I think okay, we're at 4:30 thereabouts. I'll give it maybe 15 more seconds. I'll take any questions that come in the next like 15 seconds, and then I'll call it. But this has been a delight. Sound very cute. Excited to see them. I spotted the piano just now. Do you play instruments? Yes, I play keyboard. I wouldn't go so far as to say I play piano with like a capital P, but I enjoy the keyboard, and especially just being like such a digital native. I love like this is not a piano. This is a MIDI keyboard, and I love just like plugging it into GarageBand or Logic and like making these MIDI things. That doesn't require so much on like the performative, not performative, but like the performance of piano. It's more just about I play sufficiently in order to then edit the stuff. Guys, this has been a delight. Thank you for joining. I can't believe we're at 5,000 subscribers, which is a weird numerical abstraction. It's actually like super. I'm learning so much and having such a great experience. Okay. I'll answer this. I can't say no to you guys. I'm having too much fun. Throwaways 3 says, "Yeah, you mentioned Riz when you talked about Zoran, how I even remember that. Also, a little weird question. How is your YouTube feed? What do you like to watch?" That's a great question. I mean, we this is a longer conversation about each of our relationship with the algorithm. I feel like the algorithm giveth and the algorithm taketh away. So like every once in a while it'll give me something new and delightful. And most of the time it's kind of giving me the same things. It's very my YouTube feed is very political right now, which is I guess being represented in the videos that I make. So a lot of Heather Cox Richardson, who I've mentioned, a lot of Jamel Bowie, who's a political commentator. Um, at other phases of my life, there have been like a lot of video essays, like breaking down films. There's been a lot of like philosophical stuff. Um, yeah, I'm really excited for I love liminal space, the back rooms. I think that might be a video that I do. And there's the movie that they're making of the back rooms next month. So like YouTube has been serving me up a lot of liminal space, back rooms content, which is fun to watch as I'm falling asleep. Jess says this was fun. I'm glad I was here with you all. Congrats on 5K. It's lovely to hear that you've been getting a lot out of making vids too. Good night, all. With that, if Jess is going to bed, then we should all go to bed. It's been a pleasure seeing you guys. You know where to find me. Like I said, you can email me if you go to the channel page. Also, hype for the back rooms. Kind of similar. It was amazing. It's been wonderful. Have a nice rest of your day. Congrats. Yeah. I mean, y'all did that, not me. So thanks. I guess I'll leave it at that. Thanks. Bye. We'll do this again sometime soon. Stay in touch. Check out the Substack if you're trying to get a Ray fix in between. I will see you guys later. Have a great day.